Managing expected move 0 DTE spreads. We're talking SPX here, of course. So 0 DTE options continue to be, one of, if not the most active thing traded. I think it is the most active traded option here in the market across the board here after the launch of the full suite of 0 DTE options 3 years or so ago. The multi-year bull run has been particularly kind to put sellers. I've seen so many comments from people being like, oh, well, it's stunk the last couple months. That's right. That's called reversion to the mean in terms of your probabilities. If you outperform by 20 or 30% on what the projected probability is for multiple years, you got to expect some downside after that. You can't continue to flip coins and hit 75-80% on the head side on a 50% probability time and time again.
Right.
Probabilities mean revert. You just don't know when. Right. So we could have had another year of bullish move. That was certainly in the cards there. So it's been a good trend. Using out of the money short strikes offers premium sellers a high win rate and room to be wrong at the cost of a smaller initial credit. But good entry is only part of the equation. Knowing when and how to exit has, in my opinion, been the biggest key here, especially this year, because we've done a number of 0 DTE trades where we closed them for $100 or $50 or $75 profit. And at the end of the day, it was a much different story. It was a big winner, a big loser, or a variable loser. It's really been about managing these trades. So today we're going to examine how different management mechanics affect the outcome of 0 DTE trades. We're looking at short put verticals placed at the expected move here. We've done a variety of these looks from at the money put spreads versus iron condors, a variation of iron condor widths. Here we're going to do at the money put spreads with a variety of widths and different management criteria on these. It's going to be a good one here.
Very good. Take a look at it.
So, of course, we're going to use 3 years of data. That is the data set for SPX. They've only been around for 3 years, collected every 10 minutes. So
you know what? They should have been around a lot longer. We came up with I shouldn't say we, I believe Sosnoff and TP were pretty much instrumental in the quickies.
Yes.
Would have been the 0. Also.
A much better name, too.
Yeah, he's good with that stuff.
Yeah, the quickies would have been good.
Yeah, it would have been good. We could have had this a long time. I don't think the market was ready for it. I don't think the technology was really ready for it yet. I know the different brokerage firms weren't ready for it, but it was we could have been somebody.
For sure.
We weren't allowed to own it, so that's okay. But,
yeah.
The idea, once you spread it, it's public knowledge.
Yes. So we're going to consider the results from selling put spreads every day at 9 a.m. So that's our spot for the opening trade, and that's central. We're placing the short strikes at the expected move and then the long strike either at $10, $20, or $30 wide. So just doing different widths here. We're experimenting with closing winners at either 25 or 50% of the max profit. We've talked about with these one-sided trades, targeting a higher profit potential versus the neutral trade, doing a lesser profit potential, as well as closing all positions at noon or leaving the losers on until the expiration. So those are our two exit points for losing trades, and obviously small winners that don't hit that 25 or 50% mark. So it's really 25 or 50% is the criteria prior to noon. If we don't, we're going to look at closing all of the trades at noon and then closing all the trades at expiration at the end of the day. So we're going to look at the total number of winning trades, the total profits or losses, and the maximum drawdown. Remember, the maximum drawdown is going to be continuation, right? So it's going to be the lowest print of the P&L cumulatively. So, there are multiple weeks where you have multiple losers that are going to, so that your max drawdown is actually going to exceed the width of the spread. It's not each single trade. It's the accumulation of losses and loss total throughout the throughout the study. And of course, all these trades are assumed to close at mid-price. It's about as good as you can get here. They mostly do trade around mid-price, maybe within a nickel or so, but that is just a caveat here. Sometimes, you got wider spreads here, volatility creeping up and whatnot.
Sure. Well said.
So the first one we're looking at is $10 wide wings. So this is the short strike right at the expected move with 10-point wide with a 10-point wide wing. We're looking at the different management here. So winners at 25%, losers at noon, and so on. You'll see that obviously targeting bigger winners and holding losers till the close, especially in what has been a bullish market, is going to be your highest average P&L per trade, and it actually does reduce your max drawdown, because when you think about it and look back at the market over the last 3 years, a lot of times you've had a bullish lean in the market, and so your biggest losses actually decrease there. I think the thing here is that towards the end of the day, it's kind of leaned a little bit bullish, which has bailed you out on a lot of these trades. And you kind of see that in the hold till close for specifically bullish trades. I think the opposite has come into play with the iron condors, because again, with iron condors, the bigger moves have happened kind of at the end of the day here.
Yes, agreed. I mean, you got to manage them is what it comes down to. I mean, I think all our research has pointed to that and point to it numerous times.
So here again, with 20-point wide wings, as you hold them with the expected move put spread, you're going to have much bigger average P&Ls per trade. Your drawdowns actually decrease. A lot of the time, you have to keep a grain of salt on some of these studies that are just one-sided, because the 3-year data set is exceptionally bullish for most of it. And so but that's all we have, right? I mean, it is what it is. Right. And it's like flipping you've flipped the coin every day and it's been 70 or 80% heads. And that's, probably going to mean revert at some point. It might take months, it might take years, but it'll probably get closer to the probabilities. It's unlikely that the probabilities are going to be 10 or 15 points better than what they are at the open.
Perfect.
So when we get to the 30-point wide wings, you'll see that, you're not really changing a ton going from 20 to 30 points wide. I think this is really what it's kind of getting at here, is that the P&L numbers essentially the same, maybe slightly lower here, just because you have much bigger tail risk, which you see in the max drawdowns here, especially when closing losers. I think basically what we're getting at here is that there's no big advantage to going much wider than 20 points, especially when you're doing strikes that are at the expected move. The relative difference in premium when you go from 10 to 20, and I'm just throwing out numbers here, might go from, the $3 or $4 premium from a $10 wide to like $6 on the $20 wide. And then when you go from the 20 to the 30, it's probably $6.50. Like, you're not getting the linear change in premium going wider. And so your wins are basically the same size, but you're putting on more of that tail risk. And that's why your drawdowns have gotten so much bigger as you've widened out the spread. So I think the key takeaway here is, keeping your spreads $10 to $20 wide is probably the spot to be, versus going $30 wide and having more of that tail risk with very little added reward on your trade.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think you just have to... They're the type of trade, and we kind of make the mistake on the show. I mean, I know we're doing a show, we have a lot of other things going on. We're not just watching our own personal accounts and putting on these zero-day trades, but we probably should be a lot more mechanical with these zero-day trades and just put them on, put a stop buy-in on them and go from there. I mean, I think we could do a better job with them, because all the data points to really trading them that way. What'd you just do here, Fastly?
I think we had like a jade lizard here or something, or let me go look at what this was. So we had, yeah, we did. I'm sorry, it was an iron fly on March 11th, and I legged out of the put side.
Did you do this with Mikey? I'm just kidding.
No, I think this was a fast market or something like that.
Teasing. I was teasing. But
and I was just looking at my positions, and I was like, what is this stock down, like 30% today or 20% today, down $5 and change. And I look at my position, and I have just the call spread. Like it was an in the money call spread. I was short the 22.5, 35 call spread. The whole trade I did at $4.40. And so I just closed it I took $169 out of it.
From a full loser, is basically.
From a full loser. I mean, it was like a $300 loser yesterday. But it was
you got bailed out, right?
I got bailed out. I was looking at my P&L. I'm like, how am I making back $300 in Fastly today? So I took that one off the board.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a defined risk trade. It was a bad trade. You got lucky. Sometimes you get lucky. And that's what it is here. With a defined risk trade, you can get lucky because, like you said, you had on an iron condor originally?
Iron fly type trade.
Okay, and you took off the side that was basically worthless for a couple of pennies.
Yeah.
And you said, all right, I'm going to see where the chips fall here. I have defined risk. I've got another 50 cents or 75 cents left to lose here. Stinky trade.
Yeah.
And in 2 days or 3 days, you get bailed out. I mean, it's going to happen the other way too. There's no genius to what you did.
No. And to that point,
the genius was actually putting on a defined risk trade in something that has, almost 100% implied volatility. So
junky stock, yeah.
Go to zero or double.
I will say, and we've talked about this before, of like, one of the things you could do with defined risk trades and even strangle trades, without adding added risk, you can take off risk. So you're not, or without adding more deltas, you can take off risk to synthetically, move your delta. So buying back that short put gets you short delta because you're closing long delta on that trade. And in a situation like this, which isn't totally uncommon, I mean, it can happen. That put that I bought back for 21 cents, it's marked at like $1.10 now.
Right.
So it saved you, like you had no more money to make on that put. The put was 20 cents. You could only make 20 cents over the next, and I did that on April 1st. So, it's been a week and change. You had 20 cents to make on that put. Right. I would rather lose out on that 20 cents than have to sit here and be like, oh, I'm going to scratch this trade now because I missed out on that dollar from closing the put. Like I'd rather take the 20 cents and be like, you know what, 20 cents more risk, no problem. And then close the trade today because I'm, making money than be a scratch.
Perfect.
Okay. Next one, a couple takeaways. So zero DTE trading seems to demand its own playbook that works for what works for one setup doesn't always work for the other setup. So while smaller profit targets like 10 to 20% work for work for at the money zero DTE trades, like more aggressive trades, the reduced credit of the out of the money strikes rewards patience. So holding out for 50% of the max profit has paid off with the out of the money short put spreads. This contrary to what we've done with like iron condors or closer at the money trades. Closing losers early is an effective risk mitigator for long dated trades, but proved counterproductive here. And I think that goes to kind of how these trades set up. They're very binary trades. And so if you're taking, the paper cut losses, it's really, really going to hurt you here. An out of the money spread that has been tested but not breached may be underwater at the onset of that trade and at midday because you have a lot of extrinsic value. But by the end of the day, if you've moved to the expected move and you're short that put spread, you're probably a winning trade, a couple hours after noon just because that premium decays really quickly. And so, with these out of the money spreads, and we don't have it on here, but I think the other takeaway as well is that at a point, why you have to look at that long option, like moving from the 20 delta or the $20 wide wing, where the option might be $1 to a $30 wide, that it might be a 75-cent option. You might as well just buy the $20 wide. Like the 25 cents or the 50 cents, it might not be worth it to add the extra tail risk for whatever that width is. Just consider that, the widening the width, it makes sense when those options have a significant value. You're synthetically selling an extra spread there. If you're getting nothing for the added risk, don't add the risk.